New NBA Plus Stuff podcast in the description. Talked about the New York Knicks and their center situation, and then my most anticipated hip-hop albums of 2018. And now for today's video, well, this sucks. Demarcus Cousins hurting his Achilles last night against the Rockets, and he's going to be out for the rest of the season for the Pelicans. And, I mean, injuries are always bad, and if it's possible for an injury to be worse than normal given the context around it, then I think this would qualify, because the Pelicans were really starting to get the ball rolling. They've won 4 games in a row. They're 8-2 in their last 10. They were playing defense. Demarcus was better defensively. Cunningham at power forward was helping him out a lot. And then Cunningham with Anthony Davis at center was like a defensive juggernaut for them. And now, well, here we are. I mean, they were creeping up there in the West. They're only a game behind OKC for the 5th seed, 2.5 behind the T-Wolves for the 4th seed. And now we might need to reassess the way this season's going to go for the Pelicans. I think there's 3 things to talk about here. One of which is just, what do the Pelicans do for the rest of this season? There's what's going to happen with Demarcus Cousins. And then number 3 just kind of puts those two together, which is, should the Pelicans re-sign the guy? I guess we can start with what the Pelicans should do for this year. I mean, now you move Anthony Davis to center, which was a very good defensive situation last year for them, if there's something to look forward to. I mean, last year, the Pelicans were 9th in defense, with Anthony Davis playing center for most of the year. So you can do that. You have Dante Cunningham probably start at power forward because you don't have Solomon Hill either. And then I think, besides that, you run a lot of the same things you were running. I mean, of course, Boogie's not there to be the other big scorer, so it's going to be more pick and rolls with Anthony Davis and more post-ups, more face-ups, and more fast breaks and all that. I would look for Davis to push the ball himself off of rebounds a little more often now. Boogie and AD also had a really good high-low game going on where the opposing team would have to care about Demarcus at the top of the key. Then he could dump it down to Davis. Dante Cunningham really doesn't have the same effect in that sense. So the offense is going to have a tougher time. I think the defense is going to be better. Boogie was getting better on defense the past, 10, 15 games or so. I'll give him that much credit. But, yeah, I think it's really just going to be a shift in team mentality. Now, in terms of what they need for the rest of the season, I think before what they needed was a wing who could shoot from outside, play some defense, and also sometimes play small ball 4. They were rumored to be looking at Damari Carroll. I think he fits the bill. They definitely still need that guy, but then they also need a backup center now who can take some of the pressure off of Anthony Davis, because if Davis is just playing center all the time, then he's going to get beat up. I mean, is it not a coincidence that Davis has played nearly the entire season, and I think was on pace to play about 75, 76 games, which would have been tied for, or at least close to, the most amount of games he's played up to this point in his career. Because typically he's around 65 games played because he gets beat up all the time going inside. So, I mean, we'll just have to see what happens. But they do need a big man who can help. I mean, in the past it's been Alex Aginsa, who isn't even that good, but at least he's a body. And, I mean, he's going to be out for, they said 4 to 6 months, and that was in October. So, I don't even know if you need to get someone who's really that good. Just get someone who can be comparable for 15 to 20-something minutes a game. You do have Omer Asik, who might need to play just off of circumstance, because I really don't see another big on the roster who can do stuff. Maybe Andrew Bogut, I don't know. In a perfect world, it could be someone who you could also play Davis next to and do some things, but we'll have to see. Maybe they go for a trade for Nerlens Noel, since Nerlens isn't probably going to cost that much in free agency. Who knows? We'll just see there. Now, if we can talk about Demarcus Cousins, they say about 6 to 10 months. That's what Woj tweeted. So somewhere between August and December, it seems he can have a recovery, which just in terms of basketball time, at least for next season, means he's, maybe he misses somewhere between a month to maybe a month and a half, 2 months, maybe even 2 months and a half, or I don't know. Which, that does suck. If you're going to give a lot of money to a guy and you're looking at him as being potentially the guy who can push you to the playoffs or maybe something better than that, and then he's going to be gone for that much time, you might be throwing away a season if you sign Demarcus Cousins to a lot of money, because then you're not going to have enough money to do other things, and then you're really going to be signing him for the season after that, Now, that's assuming that Boogie can come back to what he was, because Achilles injuries are really risky. We have not seen the old Wesley Matthews since he came back from an Achilles injury. Now, Wesley also rushed back potentially even a season too early, because you could see it. His first year with the Mavericks, he should not have been out there. He couldn't move, And he's been creeping back slowly, but, how long has it been since the injury now at this point, And that's a shooting guard. Demarcus Cousins is, 6'10" to 7 feet tall. He's a really heavy dude who is carrying a lot of person. So I think there's a real risk that when Demarcus Cousins is back, he's not going to have the mobility that he needs to beat guys off the bounce, run in transition. I said he was doing better defensively this season. That's still a risk for him. So there's a lot of scare that Boogie comes back and he's simply not Demarcus Cousins anymore. Now, are there ways that he can help that out? Yeah, sure. I think take as much time as you need. Don't rush back the way Wesley Matthews did. And also, if we're being honest, Boogie could probably lose some weight. He has not been in, I would say, peak shape in a couple of seasons. There was a stretch in Sacramento where he was looking pretty lean and moving around really well. And, clearly the dude's in the NBA, so it's not like he's totally out of shape, but he could help himself out a bit by losing some weight. So if he does that, that would be good. Now, what would I do if I was a team? Would I look to sign Demarcus Cousins? Would I sign him to a max contract? No, I would not. Part of that being the Achilles, part of that being he's Demarcus Cousins and his attitude has not always been the best. I think what we could see here is a team giving Cousins either, not a max deal, I don't think he's going to get a max contract now, but he could get something maybe around the range of what he's getting paid right now, which is about $18 million a season, potentially a little bit more than that, and either maybe 2 years in a team option, which I have to assume Cousins and his agent would not be a fan of, or there's going to have to be qualifiers in the contract, similar to Joel Embiid's contract with the Sixers, where it's a lot of, if you get injured and this is the reason you're injured, then you get paid this, but even if you get injured but you still play this amount of games, then it's okay. It's a whole lot of that stuff. Teams would have to get creative, because I understand totally why a team would want to protect themselves in this situation. Now, does this suck? Yeah, it does suck, because Boogie was in line to make a whole lot of money this offseason that, yeah, he would deserve to make. Am I one of Boogie's biggest criticizers? Yeah, I am, okay? For, defense, attitude, all that stuff. He was fantastic on offense this season, gotta say that. And, like I said, Pelicans, they were really starting to win, so yeah, it's unfortunate, but it is the situation. If I can go back to the Pelicans for a little bit here, would I re-sign him? Under all those things I just said, yeah, sure. There's no way in hell they're going to be able to find a player as talented as Cousins and pair him up with Anthony Davis again. That's not happening. So if you have the opportunity, I think you definitely take it. Because what the hell else are you going to do? Even if Boogie's gone, they're at $94 million in cap space, and they're locked into Solomon Hill, Omer Ashik, like, you don't have any other options. Re-sign the guy and hope for the best, if you ask me, if you're the Pelicans. But if I can go back to their situation in terms of like where they are in the standings and all that stuff. So, assuming they just go all in on defense, and let's say they even manage to acquire a backup center who's not terrible. They would, or maybe even a center who could play next to Anthony Davis. I don't know. Do I think they can hold off the Trailblazers? No, because the Blazers are only a game behind them right now. And I think New Orleans' offense is just going to have too tough of a time to score at this point. The other thing this does... Well, actually, hold on before I say that. Now, can they maintain the 8th seed against Denver? That, I think, is a little more possible. Because the Nuggets... They've really never been able to get anything going this season. I think a lot of that because they just haven't had Paul Millsap. And their defense has just not been good enough to allow them to be good. Because a big problem with Millsap being out is that it forces them to go with Mason Plumlee and Jokic. Or I don't know if it forces Mike Malone, but that's his go-to, and that's just not good. So as a result, they're a drop-off on offense. They're 9th in offensive rating, whereas last season they were like 4th. You put Millsap in there, you can do some more things on offense, but Millsap's game doesn't really fit in with what Denver does because they like to spread the floor and, pick and rolls and threes and all that good stuff. Millsap's more of a post-up guy, so I feel like while that can eventually work, it's going to take some time to figure out. And given that Millsap's been gone for so long, I think even when he does come back, it's going to be kind of awkward. So even if he does make them better on defense, I don't think the offense is going to see that much of an improvement, even if the talent is there. So, yeah, I could see the Pelicans holding off the Nuggets. As for the Clippers, I think the Clippers are also kind of scary, just because Lou Williams is apparently God at this point. It'll be interesting to see. Gut feeling, honestly, I think the Pelicans hold on. I think they do. They got a 3-game lead on the Clippers right now. The Pels have been good at home, and I think the jump in defense is going to allow them to just kind of fight and tooth and claw and whatever the hell else enough to where they can maintain the 8th seed. So, I'll give them that. I think the Pelicans still make the playoffs. I could be wrong, but that's my pick. And, yeah. Sucks, man. It's too bad. It's unfortunate. But unfortunately, this type of stuff happens. Good luck to Demarcus Cousins. Hopefully, he's able to come back. He's able to be himself, and this will all somehow work out in the end. Anyway, that's going to do it. New NBA Plus Stuff podcast in the description. Knicks and their center situation, anticipated albums, and I'm done.